Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. We still got about 20 people in the lounge room hanging out, but it's all good. So let me kick this off. Yago, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, excellent. Okay, welcome. Sovryn Community Call, episode 23. This is your host, Ingalandia. I help with partnerships and integrations. I just wanted to speak a little bit on why we're all here. So, Bitcoin DeFi, it is extremely early. And we're here, for those of us who are here, you're either here to observe its unfolding or even better, be a part of it. Bitcoin DeFi it's a very unstandardized, fragmented space. It isn't center stage the way Ethereum and Solana and CryptoPunks are center stage because it's early. There are a few Bitcoin DeFi startups, several of them relying in various degrees on the actual Bitcoin base layer. However, they tend to point to the same thing, and that is augmenting Bitcoin with DeFi superpowers. And what is the best way to do it? A sidechain, waiting for Bit 300 to get merged, DLC, RGB. There's no real consensus here because this space is early. But what we do know is that what we as sovereign individuals are building is intended to be pragmatic, integratable with other DeFi platforms out there, regardless of the chain, censorship resistant, native to Bitcoin, and simple to use. So we are here to arm Bitcoin with superpowers. So welcome, Bitcoin mutants. Thanks for joining us here. Thanks for sharing in this mission. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand, wait patiently, and we'll bring you on stage. And before we go through the agenda, would anyone here like to introduce themselves and say hello? Don't be shy. This is your moment. Alrighty. I'm going to bring in Idan Yago with some words and updates.
What, no rap? Okay, today is an exciting day. It's the first hard fork on Rootstock that Sovryn is going to be undergoing. We have spent a huge amount of time thinking carefully about how we can avoid any potential edge cases. And so we expect the hard fork basically now, and the system will be in maintenance mode while this is happening so that we can monitor that there are no major issues. And so that's something that we should be expecting. And then the other thing about the hard fork is, because of the hard fork and because of the emphasis that we place on security, we have postponed various things. So I think you guys all know that, and if you don't know, we'll discuss it, that there's the BabelFish launch on Origins, which is our first test of the Origins platform, and that we have introduced changes to the staking rewards. And both of those, we changed the date and have moved to next week in order to make sure that there would be no risk of something going wrong during the hard fork. So I will discuss those things in a moment. I will also discuss Origins and why I think this is something we should be paying attention to. But I wanted to speak about something. So one of the things that I've noticed is that we have a weird little paradox. Like, sometimes people will message me and complain about why something hasn't been delivered that we already spoke about in a call, or why there is like a lack of transparency in the project. And it initially I found it confusing, but what I've come to realize is that one of the interesting and cool things about Sovryn is that Sovryn actually probably has a very, very high degree of transparency. And as a result, people are exposed to the sausage factory, right? So imagine you had to eat sausages, but before you ate those sausages, someone took you on a tour of the sausage factory. I wouldn't want to eat sausages after that. And the process that we go through is frequently a messy process. This hard fork is a great example of that, right? So there's a whole bunch of development that was done, and then dates were changed in order to accommodate and make sure that there was, things were secure around the hard fork. And I think one of the frustrations that I've noticed people having is we will say that we're developing something, we'll say it's on testnet, and then it still takes a long time, or what they perceive as a long time, for it to be on mainnet. So I thought it would be worth taking a moment to explain a little bit about the process and why that is the experience. So Sovryn is one of the most audited pieces of code, I think, out there. On average, for every single day that we spend developing a feature, we probably spend between 4 or 5 days writing a suite of tests for it, auditing it, getting a third party to audit it, deploying it to testnet and testing it there, deploying it to staging and testing it there. There's way more time is spent on testing things than on developing them. And I think that's the right way to do this. I think it's the only way that we build extremely solid foundations for what we would like the future of transparent, incorruptible finance to look like. But the result is that we will say that we're working on something, and then it takes a while before it gets developed. At the same time, I was thinking today that if you look back just like 3 months, like what our dApp looked like in, right, the reference implementation dApp that we have at Sovryn.app looked like just 3 months ago. It's crazy how much it has changed. And so I know that this is not a frustration that most of you guys have, because you guys join the calls, and I think you guys are aware of what we're doing. But I think one of the things that I've noticed is that this is like a thing that the community managers need to discuss with people on an ongoing basis. Like, people will be asking these questions, and I think it would be great if you guys are in community calls or community channels, or talking to your friends, and they're asking these questions, that you're able to explain, look, the project is moving very, very fast, but this is why you'll hear about something, a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months before it gets released. It's because you are exposed to the sausage factory. The other thing I wanted to point out is the changes that are coming to staking rewards. So there are 2 changes that are coming to staking rewards in the immediate future, and a third change, and several other changes that are anticipated. And there's a really, there's some good blog posts that have been published, and some more that will be published on that. But next week, staking rewards are going to be changing in 2 fundamental ways. First of all, staking rewards right now are distributed across all stakers. That is going to change, and staking rewards are going to be distributed only to those people who are staking tokens that have already been made liquid. And this will concentrate the rewards quite significantly. The other thing that is happening is that staking rewards are now going to get a minimum. And that minimum is going to be provided by staking rewards, which are provided in the form of SOV. And so the longer you stake for, the more you will receive. That's going to always be the case. But now, if you stake for 3 years, you'll get a minimum staking reward of 21% in the form of SOV, in addition to any additional staking rewards that the system generates. And so that's starting beginning of next week. And in addition to that, and this brings me to BabelFish, there's going to be a snapshot taken of people who are staking at the beginning of next week, and fish tokens are going to be distributed to stakers on the basis of their stake weight. In other words, how much weight you have staked, as sort of like a kind of airdrop to SOV stakers. And this is something that we expect to see happen in the future. So there's a number of different projects that are looking to launch on Origins, and it's likely that they will be distributing tokens to SOV stakers on an ongoing basis. So SOV staking is about to change quite dramatically. One, there will be the staking rewards becoming more concentrated. Two, staking rewards will have, in addition to the system revenue, SOV, which will be provided liquid SOV will be provided to stakers. And three, projects that are launching on Origins are going to start becoming a new source of tokens. And this is actually an interesting type of source, because what we're building here and what we will be building over the coming years is decentralized financial platform for Bitcoin. And our goal is to provide a protocol which is going to have all of the different things. It's going to have stablecoins, it's going to have NFTs, it's going to have lending, but it's also going to have options and futures and mortgages. And each of these is going to be some of these things will be developed by the Sovryn community or the Sovryn core team, and some of them will be developed, like Money on Chain or BabelFish, by sort of affiliated groups. And those affiliated groups, if they're launching on Origins, are going to be, in one way or another, distributing to SOV stakers part of their tokens. So what happens is, I think SOV kind of becomes like this index. Like when you hold SOV, or certainly when you stake SOV, it's kind of like holding an index of the entire development of the open finance protocol that is being built with Sovryn and around Sovryn. And I think that is one of the exciting things about Origins. And we're going to see, we'll see how it works out, and we'll learn probably a lot from the BabelFish sale that is coming next week. But we'll be having the pre-sale, we'll be having the sale later when it launches on the AMM. I think the exciting thing there is the future gets built when the future gets funded. And if we want to build out this optimistic future for transparent, incorruptible finance, we need to have a mechanism which is going to allow for promising projects and teams to get funded. And I think Origins is going to be basically the origin story of a huge number of these Bitcoin mutant projects. And I'm very, very excited to see that happen. So that's all I wanted to say with regards to that. And I'm handing it back to you, Ingemar.
Thanks a lot, Jago. Can we move forward with Aurora with the tech updates?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So sorry to just repeat some of the things which Jago already said, but I will not spend much time on them. We just enabled the maintenance mode about 5 minutes ago, and the maintenance mode will remain until we are sure that we are having consistent data on our nodes and the hard fork went well. We're currently expecting the hard fork to happen in approximately 10 to 15 minutes. While this is ongoing, some of you might have realized that the bridge has already been in maintenance mode before. And this is because we're upgrading the bridge. And we're not just upgrading the bridge, it is actually already upgraded. And it is expected to go up again then with the rest of the system. So this means that the 2 transactions which got stuck on the bridge on the last aggregator update will finally be unstuck. So that's good news for the people who were affected. And apart from that, it's giving us some other benefits like better contract interaction with bridge. Apart from that, we're currently very busy with preparing the Origins platform, which was already mentioned before. So here we are in the final phase of testing everything and making sure that everything is on plan and going and repeating the plan to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And these are probably the biggest things, but then there are also the SOV staking changes, which you have been waiting for. That's the SOV staking rewards in form of SOV, where the contract review has taken longer than expected. We are expecting to receive the report by tomorrow, but currently we are still waiting. In the meantime, we are on testnet and are just testing the smart contract also manually together with the interface, in addition to the unit tests we already did in the development stage. The other staking update are the SOV staking and fee sharing changes, which exclude vesting contracts from the fee sharing. And this update is not going to be released alone, but it is going to be bundled with other changes which are affecting the same contracts. This is an update to the fee sharing contract, which allows you to withdraw your fees, not like now in different liquidity pool tokens, but instead to withdraw them all concentrated in RBTC. And also an update to our vesting registry, which just allows us to handle our vesting contracts better than we currently do. Because this is a combined update, the testing is a bit more effort, and we are still in need of thorough testing on testnet before we can release it. In the meantime, we are waiting for the external review. It is already scheduled, but did not yet start. Anyway, both things are well on the way, and it shouldn't be much more longer until we can finally release them. And on the limit order side, I think you were already told on the last community call that we already finished the limit orders against the AMM on the smart contract side. However, what is still missing is the UI, and this is currently in the works. And as soon as we're having the UI for it set up, and then we will inform you guys so you can already check out everything on testnet and let us know if there is anything you would like to have changed about it before we are going to port it to mainnet as well. In the meantime, on the Solidity side, we are adapting the limit orders to also work for margin trading. And then there is one more update coming, which is actually combining a lot of small, medium-sized development streams. There will be better ways for you to limit the slippage on your orders. So you're not only protected by the 5% maximum slippage check, which the protocol itself is having, but you are able to pass along a custom slippage, which should avoid the cases where you end up having a position which is diverging too much from the size which you were expecting. It is including more emergency measures for us to either stop the complete protocol or to roll back after a contract update. And these emergency measures we need to finally transfer the ownership of the protocol to the governance, because currently it is still controlled by the exchequer, and this is something which we have wanted to do a long time ago, and it will finally be possible after this update. And also with the IR trading rebates introduced, which means that you get back a part of your trading fees on each trade in SOV, and also a referral system, so you can refer friends and get rewarded for referring on each trade they make. And I think that this list is not even complete, but you see that this is an update which is really combining a lot of different work streams, and therefore it also requires a lot of testing. So this is what we're currently doing. And apart from that, we started working on a peg out process for fast BTC. But this is still in a very early stage, and I will keep you updated about this. I believe that these are the most important updates from the development side. Are there any questions so far?
Do we have any new developers on the team?
Let me think. Do we have new developers? I do not think that we have new developers on the team. I miss anyone, guys? Is there anyone who's new and would like to introduce themselves?
Otherwise, do we have any questions from our audience on anything that Iago mentioned or Aurora mentioned? Simply raise your hand and I'll bring you up on stage. It looks like Light wants to say something. Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, so question for Iago or anyone else on stage who can answer this. You mentioned there were these few different changes coming to staking. I was able to catch that the first change, concentrating rewards to only stakers who are staking fully vested or liquid tokens, is happening. Are the other changes that you mentioned also only going to apply to fully vested stakers? Or will they also apply to stakers who currently have SOV investing contracts?
As a matter of sort of general principle, from this point on, all rewards will apply only to liquid stakers.
That is clear. Thank you.
Okay, we got Whipper.
Hey guys, can
How's it
you hear
going?
me?
Quiet
Oh,
and
we
usual.
can't hear you.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Now is a little better. If you can speak closer to your microphone.
Yeah, sure, perfect. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to ask or not, but I just want to know what assurances we have from the Sovryn community with regards to giving over the XUSD contract over to BabelFish once they complete their sale. I just want to know what sort of, I know that they're working on a security and risk management protocol, but I just want to know what sort of things we're looking for on Sovryn from that team before we fully release over the XUSD contract. I don't even know if I'm naming it properly, but I think you understand my question.
Yeah, so the contract is the XUSD BabelFish aggregator, I suppose is what you might want to call it. It's a great question. As you know, there is a sort of risk committee that has been set up, which is a community-based committee of multiple people who meet to discuss any change that is being done to the XUSD contract and discuss its potential implications and risks. And I'm participating in that, as are a number of other people from the Sovryn community. One of the key ideas that has come out, and I think is a really cool idea, which will have implications for how we construct subcomponents of the Sovryn protocol and the Sovryn ecosystem more generally, is that, so as you know, there is, in this, and Aurora just mentioned it, there's the ability for the Bitocracy to halt the system. So like if there was a need, there's an ability to have an emergency stop on transactions occurring on Sovryn. And then there's the ability to restart it. Using that principle, there is the idea right now, which isn't a decision, so I'll emphasize that. But the consideration right now is to have the Bitocracy, the Sovryn Bitocracy, have the ability to call emergency stops to XUSD, as well as have the ability to veto decisions that are made on the XUSD platform. And what this does is it creates a new way of thinking about how DAOs work. So up until now, most DAOs have been basically sort of like these fully autonomous systems. Each one is a world unto itself. But in a ecosystem where systemic risks are shared, where resources are shared, it actually makes sense to have projects sort of have some level of responsibility to each other. And you can think of it as almost like a federalized system, right? Where you have the highest level primarily involved with managing the risks and coordinating the risks that could emerge from the subcomponents of the ecosystem of the protocol. And I think that starts to give a feeling of what having Sovryn as an operating system for open incorruptible finance looks like. So what is currently being examined is this ability of having the Plutocracy being able to overrule risky decisions that could potentially in the future be taken by the BabelFish community. And using this as a more generalizable principle so that Plutocracy kind of becomes a governance platform, allowing users to know that because something is part of the Sovryn protocol, that there's a general like high level of consensus around what are the systemic risks that the ecosystem as a whole is going to be exposed to.
Thank you, Iago. Yeah, just to add to that, and I couldn't really have summarized it better. On behalf of the BabelFish team, yeah, I just want to say that we're here following Sovryn steps. We're really excited to be part of this experiment, and we're learning a lot from Sovryn's community. Our governance will also be a fork of Plutocracy on BabelFish, and the first things that the governance will be focused on are about how to weight risks, setting the right standards, and other besides what Iago said, and potentially creating like a second chamber that could veto risky decisions, as Sovryn is extremely important for XUSD's liquidity. But even as we begin to expand, we're also exploring, DAO. We will be exploring DAO to DAO partnerships or creating separate buckets where we can experiment with some parts of the assets under management without putting at risk deposits from the Sovryn community.
Great. Do we have any more questions before we move on with updates from, let's see who's next, from Zoo on design? Zoo, come on up.
Hey. So, like everyone's been saying, things kind of might look like they take time. As I pointed out last community call, we're really digging into like improvements on the code and cleanup at the moment in the front end code. So like those are kind of things that you won't really see, but will make a big difference in the long run. Makes it easier for us to scale up on things. So just understand that when you don't see stuff happening, it doesn't mean that we're not completely always making this better and better every day. We've also been we're still currently working on the overall structural management of everything and defining our work processes. That's coming along very well. Excuse me a second. And should help with everything moving forward. Other than that, we've been working on things in this sprint. Like we've been prepping everything for the fish token pre-sale that's coming up next week. We've been getting the reward page where you get your locked SOV, your liquid SOV, and where you can claim all your fees. Ready, that's in testing at the moment. So is the affiliates interface. So we're hoping that those will both be dropped next week. the BabelFish and like the aggregating flow is in its final steps of testing. It's kind of been given the green light now. We don't release on Fridays, so that will come out next week in time for the sale, hopefully, if all goes to plan. Other than that, the new landing page is ready. Again, we were going to release it today, but because of the hard fork, we've held off. So that will be coming out next week. And the limit orders are actually now in development. The designs have been completed, along with the designs of limit orders on the spot trading page, which I know some of the users couldn't understand what the difference between swap and spot was, but I think hopefully now you'll see there's a bit more of a difference and you'll be able to understand exactly what the difference is. Along with that, we've done margin trading updates to the interface, taking on board a lot of the feedback from the community and from the users. So hopefully that will be very useful for you guys when you're making your margin trades. You'll be able to see your estimated liquidation prices and your APYs before opening any modals or anything. I know a lot of you have asked for that, so it just takes time for us to get these into sprints, but we've got that into a sprint now. And then we've just updated the swap page as well, so that you can see the top prices of the main tokens and see any arbitrage opportunities very easily. Other than that, we started work on the 0% credit product, and that's going to go well. We're expecting that's going to take maybe a month or so to come out, but that should be very interesting for you guys, being able to take out 0% loans and credit essentially against your Bitcoin. And we've finally started designing the new portfolio and account section. We have the first page of that done. There's about 11, but that is definitely underway and should be coming, I would say, roughly 4 to 6 sprints, as there's a lot of useful metrics that we're adding to that so that you can understand your positions better and make better decisions based on the analytics and the data. I think that's pretty much everything from my side. Do you want to carry on with the next person or go to questions?
Sure. I know Piyush wanted to get up on stage. Did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, can you hear my voice?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
My question is about fees, because when I was trying to claim my reward, it was $8, I think, approx. So anything you guys are thinking about fees on RSK, because more the people are using, the gas fee will go high. That's what.
You paid $8 for claiming the reward SOV?
Yeah, 6 to 8. It's not exactly 8, between.
But was this the first time you claimed them?
Yeah, first time.
And then on this transaction, a vesting contract was deployed. This is why the costs for this transaction are higher. So the following transactions, whenever you withdraw your fees, it should be way cheaper because a contract does not need to be deployed then, but the tokens will just be sent to your existing vesting contract.
Okay.
Sue, do you think we could potentially have something which, lets users know that the first time they do this will be more expensive than other times?
Yeah, I mean, so basically that's a vesting creation fee.
Yeah,
Or-
but like in the interface, maybe we could make
Yeah, we could show that to make sure that they understand that. That shouldn't be an issue.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, Piyush. Let's move on with Exalt Surfer. Are you there, sir?
He's
Yeah.
talking, but we can't hear him.
I'm not sure that he can hear us. Exalt, we can't hear you.
Mr. Pooh would like to ask a question. Maybe we'll take Mr. Pooh's question in the meantime.
Okay, he was sent an invite. I don't know if he rejected it or whatnot.
Still not with us, exiled.
Oh wait, here we are. Excel Surfer, your microphone still doesn't work. Mr. Pooh, do you have a question?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. I'd like to ask, hey, you're bye.
All right. I don't know what that was, but
Can you guys hear me now?
now you're good.
Okay, good. All right, had to switch machines. Don't know why it wasn't working before. So, team reorganization in adoption is continuing. Last community call mentioned that Luca out of the community managers team was going to be joining to be working on the affiliates program. Now we're also adding Unicum from the wiki team, who's joining us as a sprint and scrum master, planner, Gantt master. So we're really excited about that. Also, we've made the decision to start working highly with external agencies for marketing actions that are coming up in the next quarter. And also, so multiple agencies. We're also in discussion with final discussions with a couple of staff hires for key positions that should be done by the beginning of September. We're looking then also in the upcoming quarter start doing paid content, influencer content, which we haven't done in the past. We realized that with the current narrative and the current DAP that we've reached a certain level of saturation with the type of messaging that we've been doing, and we're looking forward to attracting new audiences, which means stepping into the dirty world of, so to speak, of the hype phase, looking out for different types of users that are using other platforms. So there's going to be a shift there in how it is that we're approaching marketing. I think it's probably the type of marketing that most people have been wondering why we haven't been doing up until now, and relying on the organic growth. But we are going to be moving into a different phase that would probably be more familiar to the crypto sector and to other users outside of our current user base. Part of this team reorganization and adoption is that we're also going to be moving to a much more data and analytic based decisions on what it is that we're doing and why. Looking for product market fit for the different products on the DAP, and also product market fit for the protocol. There's going to be more of a separation in our communications with Sovryn as a protocol and the reference implementation. Iago gave some of the overview of that during his presentation. And so this also includes, we've been working very, very strongly now on what the narrative for Sovryn is, and around the protocol and the products including Origins as a launchpad as a service, Bitocracy and governance as a service, and then partner implementation of our different financial primitives and products, and then also our own individual reference implementation DApp products like Zero and the things that Sue and Aurora have been mentioning. So we're looking to do much more analysis of how people are using the products, and also what our drop-off rates, etc. And so all of the team members and agencies that we're bringing on are people and companies that are familiar with this process and are looking to assist us in optimizing our user base. So I'm really excited about the progress that we've made so far in the last month. And then also, this is the first time speaking about this publicly, from October 1st to the 3rd in Prague, we are the general partner for the Hacker Congress there, which is a yearly event of cypherpunk and Bitcoin OG people. This year, it's an invite-only event of peers in the space. So Bitcoin core programmers, you know, a lot of philosophers in the space. And Edon will be having a keynote event on Saturday. And John Light will also be speaking about crypto projects and crypto economy analysis. And I will be moderating the live stream of the event on Friday and Sunday, and be interviewing our peers who are present at the event. And the last thing that I have to talk about is something that came out of Sovryn. So as many of you or all of you might be aware, there were 2 submissions that received prizes for the Lightning submission. And those 2 groups of people decided to come together and submit a grant as a team with RSK and with Sovryn. And hopefully today or tomorrow, the payments should be going out for the rest of the prize for all of the prize winners. We've had you know, a few delays with departures of team members and sicknesses and you know, many other responsibilities, but that should be happening today or tomorrow, that all of our prize winners will be receiving their SOV. And that would be it from me, if anybody has any questions. Cool. Take it away, Ingmar.
Okay. I just want to give them an extra second, but all right. We'll move on to business development. I have a few updates. We're currently exploring the idea of putting together a Bitcoin DeFi focused conference where Bitcoin influencers can dialogue with the various Bitcoin DeFi startups and to discuss this very early space. So not just RSK projects, but you know, the other project, like for example, Blockstack or Atomic Finance. Like, we just want people from this community to come together and just discuss what they're working on, how they're doing it, you know, what can advance the space, because it is a very early one. And I think it would be great if we could sort of push this discussion forward. So RSK has begun testing with the ZK rollup. They will have a roadmap soon, and they are extending their hands to Sovryn for becoming like a testing partner in this whole process, so that we can, you know, create a feedback loop between their team and our team, which I think is an awesome thing. So version 1, these are very, very raw notes that I got from them. Version 1 of the ZK rollup includes the following. So swapping between tokens, minting, transferring and swapping NFTs, withdrawing NFTs to layer 1, and Zinc smart contracts. So again, they're porting the ZK rollup over, and testing has begun, and a roadmap should be coming soon. Also, we've had a pretty deep relationship, as you can imagine, with IOV Labs and RSK, and they're probably our biggest partnership in this whole project. And there has been some conversation around listing the Rift token on our front end. So there should be more details on that soon, and perhaps a forum thread to follow. That's it from me regarding business development. Does anyone have questions on this section or anything that has been mentioned? We have 15 minutes left. We can open the floor up to to our sovereign individuals.
Hey guys, just curious on the status developments of the improved peg. I know that there was talk about using SOV as a potential peg in the future. Just curious to touch base on that. Wondering if there's been any developments. And I guess the reason why I bring it up is wondering if with recent regulations that have been passed in the US matter to RSK in the terms of like running a federated node operators and whether or not that matters. And I'm wondering if having maybe a more improved peg might assist with regards to that. Curious on your comments.
So I would say that there's two threads that we're working on. Aurora will talk about, I think, the more technical aspect. From a technical aspect, a lot of the work was completed, but was not launched because it would require enveloping, and I think Aurora can talk a little bit more about that, which would increase the costs of and complexity of transactions in the system. And then the other aspect of it is that we're working with Sergio, who's really kind of the inventor of rootstock, to look at ways that we can potentially introduce this as improvements to the rootstock peg. So a lot of technical progress has been made there, and now it is more around having other pieces of the puzzle which would be necessary to make it work in place. Aurora?
Yes, I also wanted to say that the RSK team is working on PowPeg improvements, and they already introduced some changes to the peg-in, which would allow for a decentralized peg-in where we would not need to have a federation, not like FastBTC is federated. But this is only for the peg-in. Originally, we were expecting the peg-out to also be included in this update and the Iris hardfork, but the peg-out option, the fast peg-out option, is not yet supported by the PowPeg. So while we were planning to start using the RSK bridges, the RSK PowPegs inbuilt functions for fast peg-in and peg-out of the system, we will not be able to do the full cycle. Here, what we're currently focusing on is adding a peg-out. So even if we cannot use an improved version of the PowPeg in the background, we can still add a peg-out using the same system which we're currently having and further decentralizing it and making it more homogeneous at the same time. We will not gain the same level of decentralization as with a truly decentralized peg, but this way we can have fast BTC setup, which is already more trustless and more reliable than what we're currently having, and most importantly, working in both directions. The other peg, like Iago said, which we were building, which was backed with SOV, has, like Iago also said, the downside that we need enveloping in order to use it. And enveloping is adding extra gas costs to each and every transaction. That's because a relayer has to pick up your transaction and send it to a contract, and there then your signature needs to be verified, and then the call needs to be executed, and this consumes gas. And on top of that, there is a fee you have to pay for the relayer, because the relayer is paying the gas for this transaction. So for the relayer to do it, you need to be compensated, which means that you pay up. You end up not just paying the extra gas, but you're also paying a fee for the relayer, so it makes really everything a bit more expensive. And yes, I think this is, in this moment, most important consideration.
Okay, awesome, guys. Thank you for that.
All right, we still have 10 minutes left. Do we have anyone else questions? Whipper, I have a question for you. Are there other prominent Bitcoin DeFi projects that you feel don't get enough attention, or you feel that like we could potentially collaborate with?
So I was following RGB for a little bit, but I have to openly be honest that like I think the devs in that community are just too smart, and I have a hard time following what it is that they're trying to work on. Maybe Yago or Exiled know like a little bit more about the project, but from the surface, it seems really cool what they're trying to achieve. So yeah, that's the main one that sort of comes to mind. But again, I've talked to a couple of people within Sovryn that have been in and out of that Discord and Telegram server that have had a very difficult time understanding exactly like the technical background of what they're trying to do. Yago, do you follow RGB at all?
I do, not as closely as I would like to, because as you say, it is complicated. I have to admit, I don't fully understand RGB, and I'm not even when I have conversations with their devs, there seem to be different versions of what they think RGB is. Overall, I think RGB is potentially very promising, but so just to give you guys a sense of what RGB is a way of using, basically users have like an additional node besides Bitcoin, which creates a history. You can, like, for example, you can create new tokens, and then when you transfer those tokens to a different user, you transfer the history of the token as well. And so instead of everyone having to maintain sort of a record of everything that's happening as you would do on a blockchain, it's more peer-to-peer how the history is shared. And in that way, it's a little bit like a next generation colored coin system. And it can potentially be integrated with Lightning Network to make the transactions much, much cheaper. That said, I have a lot of questions about what actually what it will actually allow in practice, and how long it will take before there are working implementations of it. I do think it's one of the cooler things that is happening, and so and also because it works across blockchains, so you could potentially have it working not just on Bitcoin but on Rootstock, on Ethereum, and other chains as well, and so it kind of becomes this like cross-chain platform. I suspect it will take a while before it is production ready, and so we'll continue to monitor it. And if if the promise proves itself, then we can consider integrating and perhaps moving significant parts of the protocol to RGB.
Yeah, I agree with Yago. I think that was an excellent summary of what RGB is and projects on doing. It's easily actually understandable, but I have the same problem with when I dive into the devils in the details. The details in the devils. I lose myself as well. But I'd also like to point out that Lightning also felt that way at the beginning, and also had a long-term development path, and so I agree with Yago that it's interesting to see how it's going to be coming into production and what pieces of it are actually going to be available for us. Yeah.
I have some more questions around the peg, but I don't want to take away from other people who might have questions. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll just wait a bit, and if no one raises their hand, I'll just go ahead and ask.
Going once from the community, going twice. Go ahead, Whipper.
So just back to Yago and Aurora. So with regards to the SOV peg, I guess being a little bit more expensive, do you guys think that maybe it's a worthwhile charge, almost like a toll charge, to get on and off? in a more decentralized way, and maybe users wouldn't have an issue paying a little bit more? It sounded like the main sort of showstopper was maybe, I guess, the aggressive or excessive gas costs with regards to the peg. What do you think?
Oh, there is a gas cost, but the thing is also that the other peg, the one with SOV, is also less user-friendly because it has quite a complex setup just because it is fully decentralized, so it's not so easy, and it has certain slots. So you cannot just transfer any amount, but you can only transfer specific amounts. So, and for transferring back over the peg, you need to have also the exact amounts, and it gets a bit more complicated because some of the UTXOs on the Bitcoin side are then still reserved, others are open, but you need to get onto the NFT to be able to swap back. So the whole thing around it is a bit complicated. So the idea was to take this as a way to introduce it to fast BTC, so we can use the truly decentralized peg as a way to balance out the different sides of the fast BTC peg, and then provide the difficult interface for very technical users and users who just want to make the experience and have a easy interface for the other users. But then this would not really, for most users, it would not really reduce then the trust factor there is in the multisig, which is managing fast BTC. So this is also one thing to consider, and it would be of quite some complexity to change fast BTC to use that peg in the background. So our thinking with the RSK team developing these better peg in and peg out methods into the core protocol, then we would have the option to build out a decentralized fast BTC peg without having to use the SOV backed peg. And then there's one more point to consider, and this is just that the SOV backed peg would be secured by SOV, which means that all of the reason why the people who are participating as liquidity providers who are having the Bitcoin locked up in the peg are committed to behaving is because it would lose their SOV collateral in case that they run away with the money. And this is good as long as SOV is sufficiently valuable. But if we are having high fluctuation of the prices, which can be rapidly up, rapidly down, we are also facing a risk here because we need to liquidate positions which become unhealthy. And if we are having very high liquidity, this is a risk which we also have to consider.
Great answer. Thanks, Aurora.
Okay, so if we don't have any final questions, I will close this out. Going once, going twice. All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining in. Your support makes all the hard work worthwhile. Keep kicking ass. Keep carving out a trail for financial freedom, dismantling what people know and understand about money to help us spread the word and create more sovereign individuals. If you still want to hang, feel free to go to the lounge room. But for now, the call has been adjourned. So have a good one and stay sovereign.
Thanks, Ingalandia.
Cheers. Thanks everybody for coming.